Welcome to this special edition of Managing Asia. I'm Christine Tan. Japan's battered electronics sector has emerged an inspiring turnaround story. Today we're here in Tokyo to meet the man who changed the fortunes of Hitachi. Hiroaki Nakanishi, the man of the hour. The winner is Hitachi Chairman and CEO Hiroaki Nakanishi, named Asia Business Leader of the Year by this station at the recent 14th Asia Business Leader Awards for reviving Japanese industrial conglomerate Hitachi.
Many people said to me that it's so complicated or it's not easy, but now for me, it's very simple.
A clarity that executed one of the most spectacular corporate turnarounds in Japan since Nissan. Hitachi had accumulated losses of over $12 billion between 2006 and 2009. When Nakanishi took on the top job in 2010, he shifted focus from consumer electronics to big-ticket items, railway, power plants, infrastructure. He engaged as many businesses within a conglomerate where he could and disposed of the units where he couldn't. You've made a tough decision spinning off or selling off your hard disk drive business, a company or a unit which you yourself personally turned around. Was that a difficult choice for you to make?
No, not at all. Because of the hard disk drives, the business environment is a completely different from other infrastructure business. As you know, that in the case of the HDD, every year the products to be grade up, almost double densities every year. So very quick decisions, the big organizations cannot assign the appropriate persons. So from the viewpoint of the HDD business structure, we should be separate from the Hitachi.
But it was making a lot of money for you.
Oh yes, yes. That's also the very big profit we got. That's a very good scenario for us. I convinced it, and so the final successful, profitable business should be sold out.
A company man with Hitachi since 1970, Nakanishi led it on a breakneck recovery path that was the envy of many companies. Revenue reached $81 billion in fiscal 2014, placing it amongst Japan's biggest companies. But can Hitachi stay on the fast track, with Chinese rivals giving it a run for its money? The bold CEO has a formula.
Listen to all of the people's opinions, not only internal opinions, but also the external opinions, and the imagines what 5 years later.
Under your leadership, Hitachi has staged a remarkable turnaround in Japan's corporate history. You've actually scaled back on consumer electronics to focus on more global infrastructure projects, yes, such as railways and nuclear power plants. Are you happy with the progress you've made so far?
Of course, I'm very proud of that. Our people's working very hard to do that. And in some area, the consumer electronics area, the people is worried about the future of their business. Those kind of their concerns swept away. Of course, I cannot satisfy all of them, but my decision, I'm very confident.
So there was some resistance within the company?
Oh yes, of course.
How did you manage the opposition that you were facing?
The initial stage, I already talked about the big loss. Everybody has a serious concern about that. At that time, it's not so difficult one. But the next stage, we are now successful, or some other people said to the Hitachi is going very well. In that case, sometimes why? That's a quite natural questions. So we need to have the various observations, what's the real condition for the future, those kind of the very serious discussions is required. That's true. That's a major topics when we discuss with each business leaders.
You've been successful pulling in huge train orders from the UK, but you're having a tougher time expanding in the rest of Europe. You think your recent acquisition to buy the rail assets of Finmeccanica is going to get you into that exclusive playground in Europe?
Railway business is a long term. That was, even in the UK, it was kicked off almost 15 years ago. So that we had a very long history about that. and struggling to the making a real progress and performance. It's almost 10 years to be kind of the proof for our technology. Those railway business is getting to be more global operation. The global competition is getting severe. So in this case, we need different arms. That's the background for that.
Has Finmeccanica given you that arm that you need to really get into the European market?
I believe so. That Finmeccanica has the two companies, and Ansardo STS and Ansardo Breda, the locomotive companies and signaling companies. The signaling company is very simple. It's profitable. From our viewpoint, the European standard, the implementers, the Ansardo STS is very strong, so that no doubt about that. But in the case of the Breda, we are facing of the lack of the capacity so that we can utilize it.
What rail projects are you eyeing specifically in Europe?
The railway, still Europe is the center of the world. All of the standard made in Europe to globalize, so that Europe is a very important marketplace. The heart is in Germany and France. But now both two companies, there are two big giants. So not easy, so that we need to set up the other countries base. Italy is one of them. So that's quite natural decisions to acquire the Ansardo.
Nuclear power is also another area you want to focus on to be a global player. But after what happened at Fukushima, is there still interest for nuclear power, or has the business become more challenging?
Well, the Fukushima affected the domestic market very seriously, and also that some other period, 2 or 3 years, affected of the worldwide nuclear business environment. That's true. But now still the nuclear power is a very key technology for the environmental considerations. There are no CO2 emissions. The other countries, the nuclear power's strong policy sometimes are very effective for us. Especially in the UK, they are keeping a very consistent policy after the Fukushimas, and also its time scale might be the 60 years or 100 years. In that case, we can have a very good power to promote of this kind of the technology.
You have two joint ventures going with General Electric. What projects do both you and GE have in the pipeline when it comes to nuclear power?
That's so complicated situations. We are now winning in the UK, but some other Asian countries, sometimes project is appearing or disappearing.
Like which countries?
India, for example. The total business environment in India is not so clear yet. The recent Japanese government will make an agreement with the Indian government, the nuclear powers. In this case, we can find some of the progress. But otherwise, we cannot do that. That's so complicated, total, country and country.
Infrastructure has become such an increasingly crowded market. You're facing a lot of competition from low-cost rivals like South Korea and China. As part of your restructuring efforts, you've recently been embarking on cost-cutting. Do you now have the right cost structure that allows you to compete better?
Well, it's depend on some of the area. In the case of the railway business, we should be, and right now, the competitive. Our cost is competitive. But some area that sometimes that the new technology applied. The typical example, the thermal power plant case. The China may have a very aggressive price to do that, to attack of some emerging countries. But now still there are some of the technical advantage we have. So how to utilize of the merit of the advanced technology. That's fully related to the CO2 emissions. So very much technology battles in that area.
As you expand overseas, right now overseas projects make up close to about 50% of your overall sales. How quickly can you grow outside of Japan? Do you have a target in mind?
The current infrastructure business, still the Asia and sometimes right now US, even the US, the developed countries, the demand is very strong. So we need to making a clear plan to invest and how to develop of the market. So I don't have a clear idea about that yet.
But do you have an internal target you want to reach yourself about overseas revenue contribution?
Of course, still Japan is a very stable, important market, so that I cannot deny the importance of the Japanese market. So currently we are reaching of the 50%, but now quite naturally the more than 60% is the next step for that.
Stay with us. Up next, we ask Hiroaki Nakanishi, CEO of Hitachi, about the weak yen and the recovery in Japan. Managing Asia will be right back.